I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings, son.
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
But one of the most famous videos you ever did, Wayne, was Sergio Oliva in 1972. And I believe this was right after Sergio competed in the Mr. Olympia, where he lost a real controversial decision to Arnold. And the footage of there is some footage from the 72 Olympia, but you did a photo or a video shoot of Sergio in a park, right? And that's that has to be one of your most favorite, or one of your most best-selling videos, I would think, right?
Yes, it is, and it still sells today.
Yeah,
that was Sergio at his absolute best, where he just lost by virtually one vote to Arnold in Essen at that Olympia. That was about 2 days before, because he travelled straight away back to London, and then Wag Bennett helped me set up the filming session with him, the filming and photos, and that was probably. That and my shooting with Arnold would be my two most memorable sessions that I ever shot on film.
Yeah. How was Sergio when you shot him, Wayne? Was he in a bad mood because he lost?
He was mildly depressed.
Was he?
So by that, I'll say this: he wasn't sparkling, bubbling, making any jokes. He was just very quiet, and I could tell that he was depressed. Disappointed, perhaps, is a stronger word. He was disappointed that he got so close, and yet he still ended up second. And he felt that because it was held in Germany, that there were enough European judges that swung it Arnold's way, and that counted a little bit against him. So he was mildly pissed that he hadn't quite got there. So during the session, it went pretty well. But when we got near the end of the session, he said to me, "I'm tired now. Can we finish it in a moment?" And so I didn't get to take all the photos that I would like to have taken. But fortunately, I took all the video part, which is the film part. I took that first.
Okay. Yeah, the video and the photos from that day are just amazing. And I think they're still really famous even today, all these years later, you know.
Yeah, you still get to see them, don't you? And unfortunately, that's been very tempting for video pirates to grab my footage and use it for their own commercial advantage. But that's what happens if you have a success. People want to ride on the back of it, and that's life.
Yeah. It's interesting because I just bought some old magazines, and I bought an issue of Muscle Builder from 1973, and I was looking through it, and they had an interview with Arnold. Rick Wayne did the interview, and they were talking about the 1972 Olympia. And Arnold even said in there, he said Sergio looked fantastic in that show, and he admitted that Arnold admitted that he wasn't at his best. And he said, if I would have been a judge, I would have voted Sergio first. You know, so he even admitted that Sergio really should have won that contest.
So it was so close, and there weren't just enough judges, put it this way, to be on Sergio's side. And so in a close decision, well, as we know, he came out second.
Yeah. Another name I want to mention is Bill Pearl. You got to see Bill Pearl at the 1971, which was his last appearance.
Yeah, that was his last contest, yes. And what a way to go out, winning the NABBA Pro Universe, beating Sergio and Reg Park, although Reg was past his peak at that time.
Yeah.
And Bill Pearl, never forget, he had all these veins popping out in his arms. He looked absolutely fantastic, and he must have put so much effort into preparing himself to win his last contest.
Yeah,
and it was an awesome feat, because he beat other people that were great. And Bill Pearl by that time was getting to be, I'm guessing, do you know what his age was? He had to be 40.
He was
maybe.
40. Yeah, I think he was 41 later in the year. So, but at 40 at the time of the show, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a wonderful victory. And afterwards, he and Leo Stern invited me up to his room for celebrations, because Bill Pearl knew me. because I used to buy his books from him at wholesale and sell them in Australia. So we knew each other in a business sense as well as old friends. So that was a very, very special day when Bill Pearl won that 1971 Universe.
Yeah. I just did an interview recently with Roger Schwab, who was an IFBB judge, and he wrote a lot of articles for Ironman magazine. And Roger told me that when he was at the 1978 Mr. America, Bill guest posed, and I think it was 25 years after Bill won the Mr. America, because he won it in 53. So this was 25 years later. And Roger said he looked so amazing. He said he could have won the Mr. America contest that night. At how old was he? Like 48 years old, I think, at that time. And he said he could have won the Mr. America that night. That's how good he looked.
Yes, he was an absolute legend. And of course, he's still with us, even though I understand he's struggling a little bit at the moment with health issues. But he's still with us. He's the last of the old legends, isn't he?
Yeah, he sure is. It'll be 91 this year. Or no, 92. Yeah. He'll be 92 this year. He's 91 right now. So yeah, I hope he lives a long life. But what a magnificent career he's had. What a great life he's had, you know.
Absolutely. I only regret that I never made the effort to go up and visit him at his home and his home gym. I always felt that I should have done that and shot some film of him training, but I never got to that stage. But that would have been something, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Another one of your most famous videos, I think, was the one you did with Arnold and Franco at the pool in Australia. And this was also, I believe, 1972, right?
Yeah, 1972. And it was early in the year. So Arnold and Franco were doing posing appearances in Australia. And the promoter asked me to come up and judge the amateur contest, which preceded Arnold's guest posing. And so I took the opportunity to make a deal and Franco. So on the morning after the contest, we shot that footage at the side of the swimming pool.
What time of the year was that, Wayne? Was that like in January, February?
Yeah, yes, it was. It was very, very early in the year.
Okay.
So it was later in the year when Arnold actually peaked for that 72 Mr. Olympia in Essen, which was about September from memory.
Yeah.
So he wasn't shredded, but he still looked incredibly impressive.
Oh my God, I was amazed. When I saw that film for the first time, I was absolutely amazed. I remember thinking, this isn't Arnold at a contest. This is Arnold guest posing, you know, at some other country in Australia. I mean, I was just blown away. There's one part of the film when the film just starts and Arnold's just standing there and he's got these like light blue trunks on, and he kind of breathes in. And it's just mind blowing. And then he just looks incredible. And then he does a front double bicep. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, what a spectacular human being he was. You know, I mean, definitely, I think, you know, obviously one of the greatest bodybuilders ever. And when you can see that video, you're thinking way back in 1972, this guy was just unbelievable.
When you think back, that's 50 years ago.
It's 50 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, 50 years ago this year. Isn't that, as you said, it's almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Franco was there. Franco joined in, and he was fantastic as well. And and Arnold couldn't have been better to work with on that particular day.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hear people talk. I hear people talk today, and they're like, "Well, Arnold wouldn't even win like an amateur show today." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, when you look at that video, I think to me, Arnold's the greatest bodybuilder ever, you know, and I know the bodybuilders are much bigger now, but I don't see anything that impresses me like that. You know, there's, if I see these guys today, I mean, they're definitely huge and they're freaky looking, but they don't look like that. They don't impress me the way Arnold impressed me.
No, you're right. And also Arnold had the charisma with everything else that he had.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I look at some of these old magazines I have, Wayne, I mean, I'll come across a picture of Arnold or Sergio, and I feel like I'm 13 again. You know, it's like, I'm like, wow, look at this. You know, the guys just looked so unbelievable back then. It was just, it really was the golden age of bodybuilding, you know?
Yeah, yes, it was. Absolutely. It's so different today.
Yeah, it really is. What was your favorite video to shoot, Wayne? Because you also shot Mike Mentzer in California in the 70s, right? That was a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, I shot with Mike Mentzer on the beach in 1977. And then in 1978, I shot him and Ray working out in the gym. And then in the day, we did posing, the two of them posing together on the beach. So those 2 years were very, very special years for Mike. And I know I've told the story before. Mike said to me, Wayne, don't worry, I will keep posing for as long as you have film in your camera.
Wow.
That was generous. In other words, he didn't say, look, you've got half an hour and then I've got to go. He just said, I'll do as much as you want. And he was a very, very generous, spirited person. And he had an amazing, freaky sort of physique. There's nobody around today that has that freaky sort of a look that he had, with his calves, his arms, good lat spread. He was very smart to talk with him.
Yeah.
No, he was just a unique human, and we miss him. He left us far too early.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, he had another one. He was another one that when he posed, he really like expanded it, almost like he exploded. Like I remember when he did his front double bicep or that pose with his arms out to the side. It was just like, whoa, it like knocked you back in your chair almost, you know?
Yeah. I remember this. He had stretch marks and he said, oh, that's because I grew so quickly.
Yeah. What do you think of Casey Viator when you saw him in 1978 when he finally competed in the NABBA Universe?
In a way, he was a little bit like a smaller, different version of Mike Mentzer. He was a very powerful physique. Everything he had was outstanding. His abs were good. He was right at his peak. And he was another fun guy to work with. And I worked with him 2 or 3 times, once in California, twice in California, and once I went over to Florida and I filmed him at the Arthur Jones Nautilus place and on the beaches in Florida. So they were wonderful experiences. And that was 1978. Yeah,
it was kind of disappointing he didn't do the NABBA Universe in 71 after he won the America, because he was so freaky then. Yeah. And it would have been interesting to see how he would have did that year, you know?
Yes, he did do a NABBA Universe, but from memory, I know he didn't win. He probably got a second or maybe a third.
He was second to
He wasn't
Johns, I think.
Second, okay. He wasn't quite as good as I had seen him look at other contests. And again, maybe he just didn't travel and hold his condition as perfectly as he would have if he was in USA. That's my theory.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Bertil Fox, because now even today, all these years later, when I see pictures of Bertil when he was at his peak, especially in the NABBA Universe, it seems like he was almost better in the NABBA Universe than when he came over to the IFBB. So, and he was really, really young, probably early 20s, and just incredible thickness and muscle mass for a young guy like that.
Yeah, well, the other words, incredible thickness and mass.
Yeah,
that's what he had. He was somewhat of a genetic freak, because I've never seen another bodybuilder that had that body shape and that look that he had.
Yeah,
and at the Universe, he was next to unbeatable at the Universe, as Serge Nubret found out. But where he beat Serge Nubret in particular would have been legs, and then in upper body, maybe Serge Nubret might have had an edge. But Bertil Fox had a complete package, and he was very hard to beat. And I don't think I ever saw him look better than I saw him at his NABBA Universes.
Yeah, me too. I think when he went over to the IFBB, he seemed like he had a hard time hitting his peak. And then, of course, he was spectacular in the '83 Olympia, where he got 5th place. But then after that, he just kind of faded, and he never was the same again, you know?
Yeah, he sort of disappeared, and then he had a very sad ending, as we all know, that although he's still alive, I believe he's sitting inside prison.
Yeah.
There was a very sad end. to a wonderful career.
Yeah, it was a tragic ending, really. I mean, you know, like you said, he is still alive, but he's been in prison. He'll be in prison for the rest of his life because of what he did, killing his girlfriend and her mother. But he really was an unbelievable bodybuilder in his time, you know.
Yeah, he was. And I was lucky to see him at what I call his all-time peak, which is his NABBA peak.
Yeah. Tell me your thoughts also, Wayne, on seeing Arnold in his last Mr. Universe win for NABBA in 1970. That had to be really spectacular just to see Arnold on stage.
Yes, it was. I mean, that was one of the most one-sided wins I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's no disrespect to Dave Draper and Reg Park. They gave Reg Park second, but I personally felt Dave Draper was a little bit better on the day.
Yeah, I do too.
Reg was such a legend. I think that Reg's name helped him get second place. But when they walked out on stage, it was like Arnold was a different competitor, and all of the others were just there to sort of make up the number.
Yeah.
So Arnold was in fantastic shape at the 1970 NABBA Universe. I've never seen a winner more dominant over the rest of the field than probably he was on that particular day.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, he was only 20. He was only 23 years old that year. Yeah,
because at that time he had most of his Olympia victories were still ahead of him.
Still ahead of him, right?
I mean, this was early in his career, and he was so dominant and so outstanding and charismatic to go with it that it was just a performance that I don't think I've ever seen the likes of it before.
Really?
Certainly not at a NABBA Universe, where one person was so far ahead of everybody else in the field. That's how I saw it.
Did you see the prejudging that year too, Wayne?
Yes, I did. I stood up for the whole prejudging because they didn't have seating. And so I stood up. It was in a hotel ballroom. And I snapped a few photographs, but I didn't try and film it because I was just so fascinated seeing Arnold for the first time live right there in front of me. So I enjoyed the moment, took a few photos, and then it would have been the next day at the finals that I took the film of him actually winning. Right. Unfortunately, that film turned out pretty good because they had excellent lighting. Yeah.
What was he like at the prejudging? Was he talking to the other competitors like Reg Park and Dave Draper? I know he knew both of those guys pretty well.
Yes, and he probably knew Dave Draper quite well. He was chatting to them. Yes, I don't remember Arnold talking very much to the other competitors, but I do remember him having a joke on the side with Reg Park because Reg had been his idol. And so they were friends from way back. And he struck me more like as if he was an uncle to Reg, rather than the fact that Reg was much older than Arnold. And Dave Draper looked pretty good as well. And I was really disappointed that they didn't give him second place because I did feel that Dave Draper deserved second at that contest.
Yeah. That's why I was so disappointed that Arnold wasn't able to compete in 1971 when Bill Pearl was there, because it was Bill Pearl and Sergio and Reg Park. And can you imagine if Arnold would have been involved in that lineup as well? And, you know, maybe the little spiking out he would have tried to do. And, you know, I mean, him and Sergio already had a little bit of a history. They competed in 69 and 70. So, I mean, I'm sure spiking out, I don't think would have worked on Bill Pearl. So that whole dynamic of Arnold and Bill Pearl and Sergio, that would have been so interesting on stage. I mean, I really, to this, you know, that's one of the shows that I really wish would have happened, you know.
Yeah, so do I. And I understand that I think Joe Weider didn't want Arnold to be at that contest. Is that right? Have you heard that story?
Yeah, that's what I heard too, that he wouldn't allow Arnold to go in the show.
Right. So that's the greatest contest that never took place.
I know, it really is. It really is. I mean, you know, we say like the debate is always, you know, would Arnold have beaten Bill Pearl? But it's not just who would have won. I just would have loved to have seen, like I said, that whole dynamic of all those guys on stage, all these legends in one show. And, you know, the way that the NABBA Universe was judged, where it was not on a stage. It was like you said, it was in a ballroom, and they're right in front of the judges. And who knows what would have happened? And Arnold was in incredible shape that year, 71.
He was. In 1971, although he wasn't in London, I saw Arnold winning the 1971 NABBA Universe in Paris. And this was 1 week after the NABBA Universe.
Yeah.
And this was before social media and emails, because when Sergio to Paris, he told us that he didn't know that he'd been banned.
Yeah.
For going in the NABBA Universe a week before, but apparently they had sent him a message to say that he was out of the contest, so he was there anyway. So Serge Newbray pleaded with the leaders for Sergio to be able to guest post, which he did. You know that story, and I'm sure I probably told the last time we chatted. That particular contest, there were so many people at the contest. I remember people standing around the walls of the theatre. It was absolutely packed out.
Wow, unbelievable. And you were there, right? When you saw Arnold in 71 and you saw Sergio in 71.
Yeah, I was filming it from the front row because I was a part of the British team. When I say part of, they invited me to go with them to the contest. That was Wack and Diane Bennett. And they took over the British team to the contest, which of course included Bertil Fox. Sorry, Al Beckles. Yeah. Al Beckles was the guy they took over, and he was in the Amateur Universe, which preceded the Olympia, and it's a very long story, but he ended up winning the overall unit title that day.
Yeah. Wow. So you got to see the NABBA Universe that Bill Pearl won, where he beat Sergio and Reg Park. And then you went over to Paris and you saw Arnold compete and win the Olympia, and Sergio was guest posing. Now, I heard that Sergio was in much better shape for in Paris at the Olympia than he was in NABBA, right? At the NABBA Universe.
Yeah, that's right. I wrote about that at the time. He was much better. His physique was crisp and tight and hard. He'd got rid of the thinness, which I saw in London at the Universe, and he was absolutely looking flawless. And I would have loved to see him being compared side by side with Arnold. And in my opinion, it possibly could have gone either way because they were both so outstanding on that day.
Wow.
But they never stood side by side. It didn't happen.
Oh, man. Another show that should have happened that never did, right?
It should have happened. And of course, Franco had been banned because I believe he'd taken some appearance money for something. And so he also had to appear as the guest poser at that event.
Yeah. God, unbelievable. Yeah, that would have been really great to see Arnold and Sergio pose off again, especially after Arnold beat Sergio in 70, because they were like 1-1 because Sergio beat Arnold in 69, then Arnold beat Sergio in 70. So this would have been the rematch, and it would have been, to decide who was the best.
It could have gone either way. And then, as you know, when they had their next rematch was in 1972, as we talked about, where Arnold, he got there by, I believe, about 1 vote. The judges putting him in front of Sergio. So I understand it was very, very close.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we look back at those old days. Those are really the great exciting contests. That I still relive them all the time on this podcast because I think that was just such a great golden age of bodybuilding.
Well, you're going to run out of people like me that were actually there at the time.
Right. I know. I'll tell you, when I started the podcast, I thought I was only going to go like 1 year because I thought I would run out of people to talk to. But here we go. We're going on 5 years now. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that I've shared with you some new, different stories today because in our previous podcast chat, we talked a lot about the NABBA Universe specifically. Yeah. And we went through a lot of them year by year, didn't we? But
we went year by year. Yeah.
We're talking about everybody this year, particularly from the golden era right up to maybe if we could finish with talking about Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that because you got to film him when he came to Australia.
Yeah. In 2005, I made a deal with him and we filmed with 2 video cameras and a team and still photographers. And we shot over 2 days. So we did primarily upper body in Melbourne, and then he came over here to Adelaide where I live, and then we filmed his leg workout, and I sent you an amazing photograph that you can include if you wish. Did you get that photo as a side-on shot of his hamstrings and his legs?
No, I didn't see that.
Just looked incredible. Okay, I'll send it to you again.
All right.
And that was from a gym here in Adelaide. So we did this 2-day shoot with him, and then he gave a seminar for us here in Adelaide. And this was really right at the end of his golden year, because it was soon after this that Jay Cutler took over.
Yeah, Jay Cutler won the next year. Yeah. So, and Ronnie was still healthy, so he was still training with super heavy weights, I'm assuming, right?
Right. So I would have to rate Ronnie as the most amazing bodybuilder I have seen of the modern era. Yeah. Jay Cutler was pretty fantastic, well, but Ronnie Coleman was just extraordinary, and he's got the record. He's got it. You might say he's up there with Lee Haney. If you count victories, he and Lee Haney are two of the greatest bodybuilders of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what do you think about Ronnie now with all the problems he's having, all the injuries and everything?
I think it's very sad that that's the price that he's had to pay for his success in the past. It's clearly that's what happened, and he took so much out of himself to get all those Olympia victories that there has been a price to, and he's paying the price now because his body is pretty much racked out, worn out, damaged, and that is the way it is. There's always a price to pay. Yeah.
He had so much passion for not just bodybuilding competition, but he just had passion for lifting weights. He just absolutely loved it. So as he got bigger and bigger and stronger, he just kept pushing it as far as he could go, and I think the main reason he did it was not just to win the titles, but just a lot of it was just because he loved training, and he loved pushing himself like that.
Yeah, he loved heavy weights. I'll tell you what he said to me the last time I saw him. I saw him at the Arnold 2020, and he was being wheeled in to the Bertil Grand Hall, and he came up to me, and I was behind my camera and a tripod, and he said, "Wayne, what are you doing? You're still filming?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I am. I love it." He said, "I thought you should be retired." So we had a little joke, and there I am, luckily still going, and there was poor Ronnie being wheeled around in the wheelchair. So it was a bit of a poignant moment that one I always remember.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Wayne, have you ever thought about retiring, or are you going to keep going?
Oh, definitely keep going. To keep going keeps you alive. It keeps you motivated for everything you do in life. Yeah. It keeps you thinking, I've got to stay fit. Well, I'd still go to the gym, and I go to the gym 3 days a week. Yeah. So no, I'll only stop doing it when my body won't allow me to do it any longer. And I think it keeps me young, healthy, mentally fit, physically fit. And as I said before, it's a passion, and you do your passion for as long as your body will let you do it. And I think you'll be the same with your podcast. I don't see you saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to retire soon." I've done quite a few now. Yeah. I bet you enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I do. I don't know if my podcast I don't think it'll last as long as you're recording the videos, but I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I'm glad you're still passionate about this and you want to keep doing it. That's great news for all of us.
Well, also too, there's one more thing. I've got all these videos here that people can download and enjoy and live the past history. There's over 2,200 we presently have on offer. But what people don't know, 2,200 different subjects you can download. Now, that's not 2,200 different videos, because if a video is too long, it's split into two halves. Okay. So, but I've still got a lot of my early work, which I haven't yet offered on video or as download, because sometimes you put things aside and you work with the most recent contest. Right. I've got a lot of wonderful. So I want to get all of this stuff out before my time is up, for people to enjoy the whole career, the whole history of what I was able to record.
What stuff do you have? What's some of the early stuff that you haven't done yet?
Well, I've got some of the guys, for example, that competed in AAU Mr. Americas in the early 70s, where I shot features with them. I've got the films that I shot, and I've got them stored on a big master hard drive. But I've got to physically go in and like you said, edit a whole lot of these people together, people that aren't household names, but were damn good bodybuilders.
Yeah.
I'll give you one that comes, Eddie Giuliani. I've got footage of him. I filmed him on the day after he was runner-up to Danny Padilla in a AAU Mr. America. No, so it might have been IFBB.
IFBB, yeah, 77.
77, that's the one, yes. When Danny beat him in his class, and then Danny went on and took the overall.
Right.
So I had a shoot with Eddie the next day, and then I had a shoot with Danny Padilla later on that week. So there's lots of stories like that where people such as these guys from the past have sort of slipped to one side, and I've got to get them all released and share them with all the fans.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So how can the fans out there contact you, Wayne, or get to your website? It's GMV.
Yeah.
GMV.
Well, actually, the website, the best one to use is GMV Bodybuilding. That's all one word.
Okay.
Where you can find all of the downloads. The older website, gmv.com.au, that's where I store all the history, but that's not where you order stuff. That's where you find results and stories, articles and photos. But if you wanted to look at downloads or DVDs, gmvbodybuilding.com is the place to go. Then it's pretty easy to just navigate from there. Or there's GMV Bodybuilding on Facebook, where I put up something different every day.
Okay. All right. So gmvbodybuilding.com is the place to go to get the download.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's the place. And for example, just a bit of quick news, I've just made a recent arrangement with Mark Dugdale to offer all of his 5 DVDs as downloads because they haven't been available. And so I've worked out an arrangement with Mark, and we're putting another one up today. So there's Driven, Beyond Driven, and then there's the one about the dungeon where he's with Ronnie Coleman. You probably know that. So that there's some great stuff that's coming up from these other people that put out their own DVDs. We are doing deals with all of these guys so that people can get them as a video download from us.
Oh, okay.
And then what I do is I share the profits with the person that owns the copyright.
Oh, okay. Awesome. That's great. All right.
That's how
go ahead.
That's how it's working. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully a lot of our listeners who listen to this show will check out your website who weren't aware of it before. But like I said, Wayne, I've said this before, I think you're an unbelievable asset in the world of bodybuilding as far as the history that you've recorded. You've recorded all these legendary bodybuilders and you got them on film. If it wasn't for you, we never would have saw these guys on film. We never would have saw them moving because nobody was doing that back then. We only would have saw pictures. So thank God you were around back then and you were able to record this. And those movies that you took are going to last the test of time. And we'll always have those videos to look back on, no matter how old we get or what time it is, and we'll always be able to see these guys as they were, like talking about Arnold and Bill Pearl and Frank Zane and Sergio. I mean, we never would have saw that before if it wasn't for you, Wayne.
Yeah. Well, it's my small contribution to the sport and for the history of the sport. And it's been my privilege to be there to record these people and to share it for people that come after me, both now, of course, and in the future. So it's been a pleasure. And thank you, John, too, for having a chat to me about this history.
Absolutely. Well, it's my pleasure, Wayne. It was great to connect with you again. And I look forward to seeing you at the Olympia this year. I haven't seen you in a couple of years. We should also mention, before I let you go, we did get a chance to visit with the late Peter McGough a couple of years ago when you were here in Florida. And you and I drove down to his house and we got to visit with him. And this is before Peter, a couple of years, I think, before Peter passed away. He was battling cancer at the time. But that was a memorable day that we got to spend with him.
Yes, it was. And I believe I've seen your footage from that day. And Peter also shot some stuff with me that was just specially for me, and I'm saving that up. And that will appear in my biography DVD, which is being edited now.
Oh, okay. You're making a video of your biography?
Mark Martinez is putting it together for me.
Oh, okay. Okay, awesome. All right, I look forward to seeing that.
He's a great documentary maker, and he did the history of the Gold's Gym thing, and he very kindly offered to put together all the history that I've got on myself. And so I sent over a hard drive to him, and he's in the very early stages of that.
Oh,
and
great.
I included my chat with Peter McGough from that day that was slightly different to your chat. So there's some unseen material that'll be coming up in the future.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Mark's a great guy. I had him on my podcast too, and I really enjoyed his movie that he just finished up. So I hope that's a big success for him.
Yeah, he's a very talented guy, and he's passionate about what he does.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to meet with Peter that day, because that was a great day that we got to spend with him. And I know he was fighting cancer, but he was fighting it for many, many years, and he finally lost his battle a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was a very special day for all of us, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure was. All right, Wayne. Well, I appreciate you calling in today from Australia so we could catch up and go over some of your memories from all those years of filming. And I look forward again to seeing you this December at the Mr. Olympia in Vegas. Is your wife Tina going to come with you again?
Probably not, because it's so important for somebody here running the business, because people are contacting us 7 days a week and they expect us to be here for an instant response. So probably I'll be on my own this time. Okay.
Well, give Tina my best. I haven't seen her in years either. So I hope she's doing well as well.
She's doing fine. And I look forward to catching up with you back in USA. As I said, it's been a long time since March 2020 when I last saw you.
Yeah, it sure has. All right, Wayne. Well, it was great catching up with you again. I look forward to seeing you, and I'll be talking to you during the year before we get to the Olympia. But thanks again for coming on the Bodybuilding Legends podcast.
Thanks, John. It's been an absolute privilege. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, buddy.